What is going on, everyone? Hope everybody's doing well and staying healthy and safe. Just wanted to make a quick video, a little post-NFL draft wrap-up for everyone who cares to listen. It was quite an interesting weekend, a little bittersweet, as everybody knows, the retirement of Joe Staley, a very beloved 49er from the 2007 draft class, along with Patrick Willis. It was definitely a bittersweet day. It's too bad the Niners couldn't pull it off the last two times they were in the Super Bowl for a guy like Joe who gave everything he could. But after 13 years, he's decided to hang it up, and he's got two young little daughters and a nice young family, and he had been suffering from some health issues this year, but it comes down to, in the end, the value or the quality of life that he wanted to have, and being able to spend time with his daughter. So good for Joe. Thank you for everything. You were a fantastic player, a team first guy all the time, and enjoy your retirement. So as we turn to the draft, the 49ers were up at 13, looking like they were, right on point to draft two of the receivers that remain out of the top three that everybody was projecting to go. Henry Ruggs had already gone to the Raiders, and so the 49ers had an opportunity there to they could select either Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb. That was all the mocks all those months before. A lot of people were mocking them to get a receiver because of the loss of Emmanuel Sanders. But then they traded back, and I think it was with the Bucs to 14. And they picked up a fourth rounder in the process, which would come in handy later. And the 49ers ended up selecting Javon Kinlaw, the defensive lineman from South Carolina. To me, it wasn't really a surprise. They had a huge hole left by DeForest Buckner. And Javon Kinlaw is a highly talented disruptor of a player inside. And he is a more than adequate replacement for DeForest. A lot of people were questioning the move of the 49ers, especially if you follow social media, saying that the Niners made a mistake and that they should have drafted a receiver. Everybody's a GM and knows everything on social media. But as talent evaluators, I trust the 49ers. They've gotten a lot better since their first draft, where they pretty much swung and missed on Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. And they've just gotten progressively better. And I trust the 49ers, what they're doing right now, wholeheartedly. You're not going to hit on everything in the draft, but I feel like Javon Kinlaw will be a more than adequate replacement as a player. Just turn on the film. You'll see what I mean. There is some concerns of him, sometimes, being hot and cold, but I feel like with Chris Kocurek as our defensive line coach, he's going to coach him up really good, and I really don't have a lot of concerns on that. As we turn our attention to the end of the first round, a lot of people were expecting the 49ers to trade out of that spot at 31 to try to acquire more picks, myself included. So it came as a shock that they traded up to 25 to take Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State because the way that, it's like people mock these drafts and they get really disappointed when they don't work out the way that they envision them. But the 49ers actually had him rated either equal or a step above CeeDee Lamb in their rankings as far as their draft boards for receivers. And if you look at him, he's 6 foot. He's not super tall, but he's got a humongous wingspan, almost an equal wingspan to Megatron. Back when he played for the Detroit Lions, and he was 6'5". He's definitely another one of those run-after-the-catch type receivers. He was clocked in at 4.5 at the combine, but he had a core injury that he had surgery on, and a lot of people think he plays faster than that. I mean, if you watch the tape on him, this guy's unbelievable route runner, and he's not like a body catcher. He's definitely a hand catcher. You know, he's a guy that catches the ball away from his body, welcomes contact, kind of like Debo, and is a yak monster. I mean, you watch some of the film on this guy, and he catches a pass over the middle, and he's gone 70 yards, and it's definitely I honestly think that at first losing Emmanuel Sanders would be a big deal, but if this guy plays anywhere near his potential, what they drafted, I actually think will be better in the wide receiving game, personally. After that, there was a whole lot of nothing until day 3 of the draft. And then we got the news about Joe Staley possibly retiring. And as that was coming down, news came across, like Twitter or whatever, that the 49ers had traded their 5th-round pick that they had this year and a 3rd-rounder next year for Trent Williams from the Washington Redskins to replace Joe Staley. And then shortly after, we got the Staley announcement that he'd retired. To me, that's one of the best moves in the draft, if you ask me. Is just John Lynch is just a savvy. He's gotten so savvy with the way he's run this roster and the way he's built the championship team in 3 years. To get a guy like Trent Williams Trent Williams is as good as Joe Staley, if not better, talent-wise. I mean, you put on the tape of this guy, and he's an absolute dominator in the pass and the run game. He originally played for Kyle and his dad. He was drafted under them when they were both in Washington. Nobody expected them to make a deal with Washington just because of the Shanahan and Snyder, their owners' history together, but they were able to get it done. Again, another great move by John Lynch. Probably one of the best moves of the draft, even though it didn't involve them picking anybody. They did pick up a pick in the process, a 5th-rounder. I think they switched spots. And no, they got that pick from the trade of Breida to the Dolphins. And with that pick, they selected offensive tackle Colin McKivitz from West Virginia. If you listen to his post-draft interview, he said he calls himself a prick because he's just a nasty guy who's willing to play to the whistle. And I think the Niners definitely need it on their offensive line, a little bit of meanness. I think the thought is they're going to play him at guard to replace Mike Person. Mike Person, I actually think, was one of the issues that we had in the Super Bowl with the interior pass rush of Kansas City. So this would definitely be an upgrade at the right guard spot. Eventually, I would think he's going to kick out to tackle if we don't retain Trent past 1 year. I hope we do. And another pick. The Niners lose guys and they replaced them, and this team is a Super Bowl team, and they're built to win now, and they're trying to build them to win for the future. So a lot of these picks is just kind of like retaining the core and plugging back in pieces that you lost. You go to the 6th round, they drafted Charlie Warner, a tight end out of Georgia. Not much to see in the highlights as far as pass catching, but this guy is a blocker and a nasty blocker at that. There was an article that came out about how in the Niners, some of their biggest games this year, they had to keep in George Kittle in for blocking because they didn't have another blocking tight end that could do the job. And having a guy like Charlie Warner in to help block during pass downs and to pretty much take over for Levine Toilolo, who's lost in free agency, he's definitely, in the way the Niners run the ball too. I mean, you watch this guy's game tape, and he's just a monster in the blocking game. It's amazing for a tight end to be that physically dominant in the pass blocking and run blocking. So I think it was another great pick by the 49ers. And so the 49ers, again, picked in the 7th round at pick 217. and they picked a receiver from Tennessee whose name is Juwan Jennings. And a lot of people, especially the people at Pro Football Focus, say he might be the steal of the draft. He had some off-field issues. Of course, red flags there, but his biggest thing was his speed. That his knock was his speed. He was a slow running guy. But if you watch the game tape of this guy, he's an absolute beast after the catch. Again, another guy that the Niners go after that can make their way after the catch. Just a physical specimen. He's 6'3", just a big-bodied guy, physical. He actually initiates contact. Definitely something the 49ers don't have on their wide receiver core right now. Up until I was about to make this, then the word came down that Jalen Hurd has actually been okay to work out and rehab, and they say he's doing really well. I mean, you take that into consideration, and then, having Trent Taylor come back, if this Juwan Jennings guy turns out to be something, and you add that to Debo and the rest of the crew, and the 49ers could have a formidable wide receiver crew. And I didn't forget Kendrick Bourne either, so that you know. The 49ers also traded Marquise Goodwin away during the draft to the Philadelphia Eagles. Not a lot of lost sleep over that one. He hadn't really been productive the last 2 years. So the Niners save a little bit of cap, Breida going to the Dolphins. There is some talk that Dante Pettis could be moved. I'll wait and see on that one. I'm not really impressed with Dante Pettis. A lot of people don't want to give up on him. I kind of already have, and so did Shanahan last year, but who knows? We'll see. The thing is are we going to have a season? And, it was nice to have the draft and free agency and all that, but now it's just a matter of, what goes on in this country and around the world, if we can find a vaccine for this disease, and hopefully we'll have football in the fall. The draft was a nice distraction. I was definitely for it. It's going to be interesting going forward to see what transpires in the next couple months. Again, it's sad that Joe Staley is not going to be a 49er, and we couldn't grab him a Super Bowl. But, you have to do what's right for your family, and that's what it really comes down to in the end. If you guys get a chance, you can go watch the George Kittle little tribute video he did to Joe Staley. Quite emotional. Never seen Kittle actually get emotional, so it was interesting to see that. Brings a little levity to the situation. So, with that being said, that's going to do it. I don't know what more videos I'll be making going forward until we have some news about the season possibly happening or not. And but if anything big happens, I'll definitely release something. My video is definitely a little late this week, but I wanted to see what things transpired after the draft, and I wanted to go from there. So that's what I did. I'll talk to everyone later. Everybody have a great day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and talk to you later. Bye.